Next in the NFC, we are going to the NFC West. Boy, when I tell you one of these teams in this division probably had the worst offseason ever, and yes, that team is the San Francisco 49ers. They lost 10, not 1, not 2, not 5, 10 starters from last year's team. Patrick Willis retired. Borland retired. Alden Smith got cut. Justin Smith retired. Michael Crabtree is in Oakland. Who else did they lose? Ahmad Brooks might get cut. Pretty much, Navarro Bowman is their only star on defense. They lost Culliver to the Redskins, so that's another big piece that they lost. And then, on offense, they lost Frank Gore. He's with the Colts now, so got Carlos Hyde looking to get carries. They did get Torrey Smith in the offseason, so he hopefully will be able to provide some stability on the offense for Kaepernick to pass the ball instead of to Vernon Davis and Anquan Bolden. I'm still not a huge fan on Kaepernick as a pocket passer. I feel like sometimes he just looks for one read, and then whenever it's not there, he just either runs or tries to throw some amazing pass that gets intercepted. I actually have the Niners. I think they're going to be a sub 500 team this year. They've lost too much talent. The thing about the Niners is that they had an amazing defense that kind of covered up their subpar offense. But now that the main pieces and that amazing defense is gone, you don't know what you're going to get from this defense. You don't know if they're going to be able to stop anybody. You don't know if they're going to be able to create turnovers like they did last year. They're not a defense that you fear anymore. And then now that you don't have an offense, like you have Carlos Hyde, but is he really going to be able to take up the role that Frank Gore had last year? Will Kaepernick be able to have a good year passing? Will they even be able to run the ball effectively like they did last year? It's a lot of questions for this team, and I honestly don't see them make the playoffs. I maybe have them at 4-12, maybe 5-11, but no higher than 5 wins for this team. And of course, you got the St. Louis Rams, who, in my opinion, probably have one of the best, if not the best, defensive line in the NFL. You got Aaron Donald, Chris Long, Robert Quinn, Hayes, Brockers. They're like too deep at every position on the defensive line. Now, their defense is pretty good. You got Janoris Jenkins coming back. I believe they signed Mark Barron in the offseason. You also got James Laurinaitis shoring up the middle, Alec Ogletree on the outside. So they got a pretty good young core of people on defense. Offense, we'll see. They drafted Todd Gurley with the number 10 pick. Will he be able to hold up after coming back from an injury? They also still have Trey Mason, so will they go with the dual running back situation where they split carries with Gurley and Mason? I'm not a huge fan of their wide receivers. Jared Cook is their best wide receiver, and he's a tight end. I am glad they got Nick Foles. They got somebody who can actually get the ball down the field because they have a lot of speed people on the offense. Tavon Austin, Brandon Quick. Kenny Britt, I've never been a big Kenny Britt fan, even when he was, back with the Browns and, having decent years. I've just never been a big Kenny Britt fan. I've never liked him as a player. But the Rams, like I said, they're on the come up. I think they're probably maybe a good 2 or 3 years out from being an actual contender in the NFC. I maybe have them finishing about 7-9, maybe even 8-8. I think they'll probably be second in this division. Now, of course, you got the Arizona Cardinals, who last year made it to the playoffs but got beat by the Panthers because they were using their third-string quarterback. Arizona Cardinals, I don't know. It's just something about them, man. It's like they always just seem like that they're on the road for greatness, and then something just happens, and then they just, they don't fulfill what everybody expects them to be. They signed Chris Johnson in the offseason to come to back up Andre Ellington. You got Larry Fitzgerald, Malcolm Floyd, John Brown. They have great receivers. Like Malcolm Floyd and John Brown are going to be great successors to Larry Fitzgerald whenever he decides to retire. Carson Palmer coming back after that knee injury, literally like the day after he signed that contract extension, he got injured for the year, so that was crazy. On defense, you got Patrick Peterson, who was, in my opinion, I don't think he's a top corner in the league because he's been, I guess you can say, shown to not be able to cover the top receivers. Other on that defense, you have Calais Campbell bringing the pass rush, Darrell Washington as a linebacker. So they have a pretty good defense, but it'll be interesting to see how they do in that division. I think they'll probably also have maybe another 8-8 season, 7-9, maybe even 6-10. I don't think they'll do as good as they did last year. I think they're probably going to fall off because they had a nice little high last year, but I think they're just going to drop off a little bit. And then, of course, the team that I expect to win this division and maybe even the Super Bowl, Seattle Seahawks. it's one thing to me whenever you have a team that can constantly draft players and bring in new players to replace the players from last year that did well and still have the same result. There's a reason this team has went to back-to-back Super Bowls. So Seattle Seahawks, Russell Wilson, Marshawn Lynch. Got Jimmy Graham in the offseason from a trade from the Saints. So now I feel like Russell Wilson has a number one receiver. I feel like what Brady does with Gronk, that's what Russell Wilson's going to do with Jimmy Graham. He's just going to try to get mismatches against linebackers, safeties, and corners, one-on-one coverage, and the goal line, just throw deep fades to him, just throw it up, let this man that's 6'7" go catch it. And of course, on that defense, you still got Richard Sherman, Cam Chancellor, Earl Thomas, Bruce Irvin, Bobby Wagner, Clint Averill, Mike Bennett. You know, you just got a KJ Wright. You just got a number of people, and a lot of players should thank Richard Sherman for getting them paid. He got Earl Thomas paid. He's about to get Cam Chancellor paid if he'll stop his holdout. He got Brian Maxwell paid. He got Brandon Browner paid, and he got Brandon Browner a Super Bowl ring with the Patriots. So, you know, Richard Sherman, they got a lot of people paid on that defense. But, you know, it's the Seahawks. I feel like they're just going to do the same thing they did last year. Run the ball, let Russell Wilson not make any mistakes, and just let that defense be great. I have them coming out 12-4. Maybe even 13-3. Of course, they're going to win the division. I feel like they'll even be a number 1 or a number 2 seed, but that's who I got winning the NFC West.